through the setup. Oh my God, this is so silly. It's a huge setup to get pretty much going. So this will pretty much be kind of brain at first until I figure it out. But what I'll do is I'll kill this camera and I'll mute this microphone. And I will turn this camera on. Where are you? There we go. That streaming sucks. Great. That'd be awesome if I have like really shitty internet at home and it looks like that. Oh my God, that'd be awful. But we'll get everything set up properly. Got this whole setup here. Look at how terrible that stream looks. Oh my God. It looks like ass. Let me hook up to Wi-Fi. Maybe that's why, because this guy is not hooked up to Wi-Fi. So let's do that. So many things, guys. Sorry, my primitive skills. Okay. Ongoing call. Looks like it's getting better. So now I got to figure out how to call John. So let me grab this guy. Put the charger on it. Wow, what a setup, guys! Holy shit! So I got to see how to get Junior on the horn. So microphone is muted, camera is muted. Beautiful. And let me go back to here and see how I can get a hold of Junior, and we can then talk. Me edit this. I can't even talk. It says discussion. I couldn't even type properly. Discussion. There we go. Lund Junior, save changes, unlisted. It's still unlisted, so I'm going to try to get everything done as soon as possible. Dude, see all in Messenger. You have to start the live thing and share the link to me. Good enough. So copy, and then we're gonna the YouTube link. Actually, this camera looks good now all of a sudden. So screen share, cameraman, control room. No, I'm not touching that. Links. So what do we do about these links? Oh, video embed, YouTube page. So copy. Junior's like an IT guru, and I must be so frustrating to work with because, you know, I'm very dumb when it comes to this stuff. I'm not really savvy. So, and I'm not trying to be savvy. But at the end of the day, if I can get it done, we should be good to go. Very cool. I'm going to try to get as much of the background as possible. So I'll have to aim the camera somewhere like that. I like that. That's a little nicer for me anyway. And then put the light. There's a little light fixture that if you guys ever want to do any live streaming or anything like that, or live video stuff, there's this little holder that I'll show you guys later that you can put right over the camera and it lights your face up like so. Move it there, move it here. I'll see where Junior's at. Send me the Hangouts link. Hover over its hover. See the person and plus symbol, hover over it, and it says invite people. If you say so, oh, here we go. Invite people, and boom, copy. If I didn't have John leading this, I'd be a lost puppy. And I'm gonna move the screen over here. John Lund Jr. Invite. And what I'll do is, we'll have two here. I'll have this guy, and then I'll have the YouTube one. It's a little more complicated than I thought, but we'll get it, kids. We'll get it. Where is he? Ah. Can you hear me at all?
Yeah. You hear me?
Oh, yeah, I hear you well.
Can you see me?
I can't believe I cannot see you.
Hold on.
I see a 5.0 emblem. Do we want to have it so that when we're talking, it bounces back and forth? I'd say leave it, fuck it, and ride out. Remember, this is going to be shown, so the setup will be shown on the live stream. So, dude, I literally dropped the phone and everything. I fumbled around the whole time, but figured it out. And we're what, 10 minutes in. So the first 10 minutes, guys, sorry about that. But I haven't gone live yet. It's still unlisted. So.
Okay. It's not bad.
No, are you vertical?
Yeah. I'm holding the phone. I forgot to bring my little thing home with me.
It's all good.
I gotta get out of the window where you're talking on my screen.
What I did is
that part's confusing.
What I did is I ended up I'm at my home obviously, and I have both screens from the work stuff, and I just have one screen with both sides. I have the YouTube live stuff so we can monitor the chat, and then I can see what's actually happening in the Google Hangouts window. And want to see something snazzy before we go live? Check this shit out. Let me see if this is. I can make this light super bright on my face. I turn blue, and then I can go really bright. Wow!
Holy cow!
Yeah, so it's pretty cool. So I'm gonna leave it.
What's that with?
I'd have to show you later because it's. I wish I could like. So basically, think of it as a little thing that clips onto the table with two arms. One arm holds the camera. The other arm holds a light that is round, and you put it over the camera hole, and it lights your face. And you can dim down or up. See, so that's pretty good right there. And you can change the color. So if you want to be a little brown, that's a little browner. It's a little pale. I'm gonna be a little brown. There we go. Brown's good. Okay, so I guess I'll go here, edit the video, and go live, right? And then what's kind of the topic of discussion that we're gonna go ahead and let me go public here. Let me hit public, and we'll just start talking free form type of stuff.
I mean, we usually never get to the questions, and I have the chat. I have their little comment thing up now, so it's easier to see since it's on the computer.
Right. So I'm not really going to do a crazy description here. I'm just going to write in Lund Jr. and Alex talk tuning. That's it. And then monetization, hell yeah. And we'll publish it. So my goal at the end of the day is to make this kind of become a thing on the Lund racing side of things. Okay. So I think we're live. So I don't know where I can see myself on the live chat. I don't know if you're going to have two screens open that monitors, because usually you should be able to see the live chat.
I'm trying to. It says we're live.
Okay, I'm thinking it'll open up a window eventually, a chat window. Once I start seeing the chat window go, we'll kind of see what's what.
Yep. Live chat. All messages are visible.
Okay. Where are you seeing that? Do I have to myself go to like my own link and kind of see myself?
I think you do.
Okay, I'll open another window. Screw it. I'll just go to YouTube, and I wonder if the chat window will be visible on that side, like automatically. Let me see. my channel, Creator Studio, and then I guess I watch my own live stream and then go from there. I don't see anything.
Someone said, "What's up?" There we go.
There you go. You can answer the questions while I get there. Because I'm trusting that I'm online. So, hey guys, Alex and John Lund Jr. here, and we're just going to do this kind of test run. We're going to try to make it like a common thing where we're online to talk tuning, talk what's been going on and everything. Just I want to verify that you guys can hear us, and John, you speak up and make sure they can hear you.
Yep. Can you guys hear me?
And I'm sure they'll be there, but you might have to send me the link because I have no idea where I'm at, so I can monitor the chat a little bit. Oh, there it is. I see it. I'm so stupid. I'm literally technology stupid.
Well, we made this extra complicated this time.
Yeah, because now I'm on. Yeah, last time I just did it by myself. So I'm waiting for the chat. There it is. There's a chat window, and of course the questions come in. Okay, so what were we going to talk about? What were we going to try to cover in this little setup here? I know we were talking about tuning questions that are common. Like today, for instance, we had a situation where a guy went to the dyno and the car simply wasn't ready. It just literally wasn't ready, and we come across it all the time. We were talking about three-letter silliness not too long ago. So I don't know what you want to delve into, if there's any subjects that you want to cover specifically, and then maybe later on we'll see what's going on in the chat window and answer questions.
We don't have to go into the I called it the three-letter epidemic, but we can't call out companies in particular, but I mean it's more about, I guess you could use that car today as an example. Parts get thrown at stuff because cars go fast. They see a car go really fast and it's sold by a manufacturer, so that part must be good. That's the logic. And I feel like there's a lot of fallacy in that, because what tends to happen is there's not a lot of consistency in other parts that get made or other services that are offered. So, and it's difficult not to go into details with what
it is
companies we're talking about, but it's more so, it's just kind of like you need to talk. For us, it's frustrating when parts get purchased that we know don't work and we don't get consulted on. And then when the mod list comes in as an order, they give us money and we scrutinize it. It's so frustrating to have the customer come back and say, well, so-and-so said this, or I saw it here. This YouTube link has, 1 million views, so it must be good, or this and that. And it's just not true. And a lot of it is, I guess you could say some of it's false advertising, but
I ended up, a good example of that I saw recently where, and again, I don't name names, right? But we seen it, where a company puts a ET number on something where the part itself is claimed to have gains, but the part was joined with other, for lack of a better word, the part needed tuning, but the whole car needed tuning on top of that. So we were like, okay, so a lot of people say, well, how come I'm not running the number they're running? And we've been accused of that, right? We've been accused of, well, Jesus Fajardo's 18 Mustang with a turbo runs 8s. Why am I not running 8s?
Right.
Why am I not seeing similar results? You're lying. That's a built motor.
Right.
So we're like, why would we want to lie? But it's really hard to do the vetting. And at the end of the day, we can't call people out. We can just tell them by our experience and go from there. But it's just funny because a lot of people, like, for instance, I did that GT350 manifold test. And I honestly think the buying public is super gullible, right? They remember forums back in the day. Forums were at least full of knowledgeable people that did the proper vetting, the looking up of the part, the flow numbers, everything. Whereas Facebook, you just see a snippet, a clip, a ET number, and then you're like, my car's going to run that if I buy that.
Right.
So, well, how do we combat that? How do we, without calling out companies and calling them straight up liars?
You can. I mean, I feel like for me, and I know my name is on the company So sometimes I get a little bit of leeway with what I can say without getting repercussion. But I feel like sometimes I just end up saying this part's junk, don't run it. And I tell them why. I try not to say this is junk, don't run it, and just leave it at that. I say this is why, and this is my experience with it. And lately, like I would say 90% of the people don't argue with me at all. But in the past, it's been, well, I've seen it work, or, this guy has it and it seems to be fine, and blah, blah, blah. And he's halfway across the country. So you don't know, you just see him running the ET. So it's, and I said 3-letter epidemic because I think I was talking to you about something in frustration, and I typed it to you. And I said, this 3-letter epidemic is starting to really piss me off. And it's because most of the companies that have the issues have 3-letter acronyms. So, and there's a lot of them in our industry. And that's not saying that they're all bad. Basically, it's an epidemic of lack of information. And like you said, with the forums kind of fading away, and we have Facebook, which is more quick access information, and it's rapid fire. It's more like chat rooms everywhere. It's chaotic. It's super chaos, tornadoes of information swirling everywhere all the time. And we have to make some kind of organization out of that chaos. And when we do, and we scrutinize, we get pushback sometimes. And all we're trying to do is make, their time worth it, or their money worthwhile for our time. And you have to find that balance. We don't want to get paid $650 to spend 6 months on something. It's like all because of a bad choice in parts, when that part may have been successful once on one car with a non-OEM computer. I'm talking about throttle bodies, or anything really.
Right. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say, and a lot of it has to do with engine stuff, MAF placement, the tube size. When I was talking to you, it was regarding engines and being frustrated with why people pick certain stuff. Because I just know something's going to go wrong. I have one guy right now, he bought all these parts. I said, sure, I'll tune it. And I kind of was uneasy about it. Sure enough, he had an issue, and something was assembled wrong in the motor. I think one of the sleeves slid out of the block. So, and for those watching that are educated, that has happened multiple times from this particular company. So it's frustrating, and I almost got blamed for it via tuning.
Dude, we could go on an 8-hour tirade of literally that, where tuning is blamed for something that we literally cannot control. Like, coolant circulation, sleeves popping out, yep. Oil burning, things like that. And I'm like, look, I cannot make an engine burn oil, even if I tuned it like a complete asshole. I think these cars can correct up to 40%. So even if the math is wrong, 40%, measured AFR is 1.0, but right. It's trimming like a mother one way or the other. And hey, that rhymes. So basically, a lot of people say, well, it's lean or it's rich. And I'm like, why do you say that? What makes you say that? Please give me the whole process.
It smells rich. It feels rich. I put my face up to the exhaust and I smell fuel. Yeah, you're going to smell fuel. So the whole, all of a sudden I have oil coming out my exhaust and it's a fresh motor. It's like, well, yeah, your rings need to seat. There's nothing I'm going to do in the tune that's going to make it worse or better. If it was an extreme event where it was running rich all the time, I could see that causing an issue. But there's certain events that happen so quickly that simply aren't going to cause an issue. So, yeah, it's just, it's more of there's no solution to what we're talking about. It's more of a discussion, an awareness. That's why I call it an epidemic. So
exactly, like a lot of people, I have heard this happen before. Well, Lund, Lund doesn't really know how to tune because they don't want to tune these injectors.
Right.
It's not that we don't want to tune those injectors. It's that we know this other injector works the first time.
Right.
So why would we go out of our way to tune an unknown injector? Can we tune it? Sure. Is 9 times out of 10 the data not proper? Yeah, absolutely. But at the end of the day, if you want a goal of what, let's say 700 wheel on the 85 on the Gen 1 motor, we know the combo to get there. But what happens? The customer says, well, thanks for the advice, guys, but I bought Bobo brand cold air, Bobo brand headers, Bobo brand injectors. Tune it. It's the same shit, right? Because Facebook said so. Or I paid some guy a consultation fee and he told me that, you know, this was it. And you're just like, oh, okay. You know, is he tuning it or are we?
Right. Right. Yeah. And it's hard to explain to them, you know, if they go buy a $400 set of injectors, because they didn't want to spend twice as much on a good set that are really consistent, and the data is provided in a format that the people that made the injectors understand how the control system that we're tuning works. They build the data off that, and they say, plug it in, it'll work every single time. And having that relieves us the ability, the burden, not the ability, the burden to go make our own data. To make our own data would take, I think you and I discussed it, I'd have to go have a regulator on a car, and I'd have to twist the nut to change the fuel pressure and idle, cruise, watt. Okay, I got my data. I have to correct it, get it good on this pressure, and I'd have to go up in like 5 PSI increments to get something out of it. And that's just a rudimentary, stupid test in a car. There's people that do it on a bench. Then they put it in the car, they refine it, go back to the bench, and back and forth, and then it's good to go. There's places don't do that. And then to explain that to a customer, there you go, kaboom. And it's the same. Then they go, well, why can't I have these 1000 cc injectors? They're just like these, aren't they? Well, if they're off 10%, 15%, 20%, and we got to bake it somewhere else, say the MAF curve, because that's the easiest spot to do it.
Right.
And don't even get me started on speed density, because you can't bake anything anywhere in there. It throws off the load calculation, which throws off how the throttle works. And then they go, I don't understand. And then I say, that's why there's not many Ford tuners out there tuning drive-by-wire. This isn't a GM. You can't get away with scaling and, you know, hacking things around, because a lot of guys do that and they get away with it. You know, that's the joys of the pedal following with which much of that operates. So, and a lot of GM guys may see this and say that I don't know what I'm talking about, but, you know, I've been told and I've seen it. It's different. So,
I mean, you know, pretty decent GM tuner, Greg, you know, he knows this stuff, and I'm sure you guys have had in-depth conversations into the intricacies of one or the other. So it's not like you're talking
the general consensus,
shit, you know?
Yeah, it's the general consensus is he says a GM's more forgiving. So with what you can do and not do over a Ford. A Ford, once you go beyond a certain point with screwing with the fuel model, you'll really jack with the it's the fuel and air model. You'll really jack with how the throttle is going to operate, and people don't get that. You know, we had a car the other day that was 20% rich on the fuel trims, and it had a throttle issue. And all we did was go out and really fine tune the MAF curve in that portion, histogramming, and we got it within 5%, and all of a sudden is driving smoother. But we didn't touch anything else. And it's the air fuel was fine, but the trims were off. So it was throwing off all the airflow calculations, which throws off the torque calculation. It's very, I can't like be expected to explain that, and we can't be expected to explain that to customers. So it's just like, please listen to us.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, when I'm trying to answer the question at the same time, so basically at the end of the day, if the MAF data is off, it throws everything off. Load, and then spark and load are not right. And what happens with spark and load are not right? You get drivability issues. It's, let's say you have a high load, a false high load condition. Well, you're gonna have a false low spark condition. You know, so you're gonna definitely be chasing your tail. So if you dial everything in one area, everything comes into play. Now, when you say bake it in, which we hear that all the time, and there were jokes about a year ago, oh, bake it in. Oh my God. Can you explain to people in very layman's dumbass terms? Because look, my fans are not that smart.
Let's say, let's say you have, you tell us that you have stock injectors, and we're going to tune it on a stock MAF curve. So it's OEM information that's in the calibration that we shouldn't have to touch. We get a log back and it's 20% rich. We ask you, are you sure you have stock injectors? And you say yes. So we have to assume you don't have a stock airbox, so we bake it into the MAF curve, because that's basically we're going to go in, we're going to pull 20% out of the MAF curve. So now your calculated load is actually going to be lower because we're telling the PCM there's less airflow.
Right.
When in reality, you probably actually had LU-47s, which are a bigger injector, and that requires changing the injector data appropriately. And when you change the data appropriately, it will actually pull the fuel out. And it's out of the injector area only. Your MAF stays the same, so your load calculation is exactly how it was bone stock.
Right.
So the other thing to remember is drive-by-wire is dictated by driver demand. What's driver demand? It's pedal versus RPM, but the map table, the z-axis, is torque. You're desiring a certain torque level at a certain pedal position and RPM. So if you have the wrong airflow data in there and the load calculation is wrong, then your torque calculation is wrong, and you go to desire a certain torque, then it could open the throttle angle to a spot to get that torque so they match. But because your load is off, it could be the wrong throttle angle, and it's going to drive really funky because the PCM doesn't know any different. So it's just, it knows what we're putting in there for the MAF curve. And when it sees airflow over the MAF sensor, it's going to say, okay, I'm seeing this frequency. What is my pounds per minute at this frequency? Okay,
Right.
it's here. And then it reverses all out and says, this is what this torque may be here. So this is the throttle angle I'm going to pick. And boom, it gives you a throttle angle. Now, this is all happening very fast. And if it's wrong, you'll feel it. It feels wrong. So that's really all it's about. And I don't think a lot of people get that your foot is a torque modifier for the engine.
Exactly.
So it's that's all it is. So
It was funny. It was funny seeing when I had my VMP TVS on the red car and the belt broke. So the belt broke and the car drove just fine. And it had FIC 1650s. It had a PMAS 149 cold air, and it was on the 85. So I thought to myself, well, there's the test right there. There's the test. If the torque tables are dialed in properly and your throttle data and everything is where it should be, it doesn't matter how, the motor, like you say, the motor doesn't know that there's a blower on top, has no idea, and it doesn't know what blower's on top. So when I drove it, I said, this is an NA car with 1650s, E85, and a 149 cold air. And it drove just fine. Now, some people would say, well, I don't need ID 1000s or 1050Xs on an NA car. Well, yeah, you don't need it, but it's not going to just flood the engine automatically just because you have 1000s. And I also hear the people say, well, I want to make more power. I want to buy some LU-47s on pump gas. I say, well, you're not going to make one more horsepower with LU-47s on pump gas in terms of the part on its own. You're not going to make 5 or 6 more horse based on an injector change if the gas stays the same and spark stays the same. So people don't understand, like, torque tables are everything, especially when it comes to drivability. But we know some people that don't modify them because according to some people, all you have to do is, math, throttle, fucking see it's done. It'll just drive just fine.
Yeah. And I mean, in some cases at below, let's say the top of the tables, normalized for 1.1 load, and everything below that with most superchargers on the car, if you have the right throttle data, it's going to drive okay. Where it gets funky is that transition from zero vacuum to boost. There's always that funky transition, and trying to find that fine line of being too aggressive or feeling a surge or whatever, that's you can kind of tune that in the torque table area, but it's the sorry, I'm reading one of the
No,
comments.
it's okay.
But that's where it separates the men from the boys, basically. So
If you see a comment that you want to directly answer, dude, go ahead. Just say the guy's name. Say, like B Lightning or whatever. He asked me a question. You can just go in there and do whatever.
yeah,
But did you want to touch at all on? You just reminded me of something about blowers and bypasses. I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit, because we had a lengthy conversation when I was up there last time about throttle feel, blowers, and bypasses shutting and creating that surge forward that it's almost impossible to get rid of.
Back to the PCM not knowing there's a blower on the car, it doesn't know that there's a bypass either. So there's some blowers that are set up with a bypass that closes very fast. And when it does, depending on the rotor design, it can go into boost very abruptly. So obviously in the tune, we have to change some stuff to make it go into fuel enrichment quicker to help not, miss and pop when it goes into boost if it's still in enleanment or it's targeting 1.0 Stoich.
Right.
That's some tuning, but then when do you say this blower bypass is jacked up and it needs to be slowed down? There's a point at which you could have the thing moon boosted, which means when you barely tap on the throttle, it's going to go into boost. I've seen GT500s that have low vacuum cams. They fire it up. It goes to 3 pounds of boost on startup. And the guys are like, why is it missing and popping? It's because I can't get enough fuel in it that fast. It's like your bypass is closing when you crank it, So
it's going into boost on startup.
Yes. Yeah. So a lot of it has, sometimes we may talk about nitrous jets and a bypass line to slow the rate down. There's some stuff you can do where you can switch like the hosing around to change the rate at which it closes, and then there's a spring inside of it. So I've talked to Whipple about some stuff with some of their blowers, and they're even aware of it too. And they have the ability to do some Ford supercharger logic, which is from the Shelbys. We call it bypass logic.
Right.
All the Roush files come equipped with it because they have special calibration software. They can pull up a bare bones file and they say, I want this in here, I want this in here, I want this in here. Now they have all this custom logic. That's obviously difficult for us to be able to get unless we're using that file. So if you're using a plain Jane OEM file and you don't have bypass logic, there's some other tricks, and I don't call them hacks, but I call them hack arounds.
Right.
So,
It's funny you say that, because a lot of people ask us, well, why can this company tune this brand new blower setup and you can't? Well, the simple answer is it's probably using the same tune, right? Or a version of it that is damn similar, except maybe a MAF and injector change, right? Yep. Whereas what do we do when we have we have to calibrate a new vehicle? We fucking buy it, right? Yep. We buy it. So that's a $35,000 investment depending on the vehicle. Then we have to get access and just kind of do a little bit of everything. And it's at the point where people don't understand the investment and time it takes to get a custom calibration on something. And 9 times out of 10, we want it, in our hands. And what's the whole investment? I mean, Senior's online right now. He'd probably tell you I have $100,000 in some of these calibrations when it comes to everything. And people were like, well, how come you're charging $250 for a tune? That's bullshit. I'm like, okay, buddy, do you know what goes into actually making everything happen? It's an insane process. And that's why, knowing what I know, the way the files are configured, I mean, I know how much went into that. So I know exactly, I don't question, pricing. I'm like, you don't understand what you're getting. You're getting a pretty damn good file, and we protect it for that reason. A lot of people who have HP Tuner software will say, whoa, I thought I was getting an open file. Like, no, this is not a Chevy. This is pretty much, this is proprietary, and trust me, if you need anything changed, we got you. It's not a big deal.
And a lot of it has to do with, like someone's asking about the Roush 2018 stuff. The blower, the intercooler is smaller on it, so it has horrible IATs. I tuned a truck with the Roush truck file, and I made a little more power with it. Got obviously raised RPM, blah, blah, blah. But after 2 hits on the street, the IATs were 170 degrees. And they run 12 pounds of boost on that thing out the gate. And Roush has the air fuel real rich. They're doing everything they could to get that thing to make power because the blower sucks so much. And someone's asking about an 18 GT, and I'm going to have to use the Roush calibration because they have an SIP sensor on them, and they have a MAP sensor. They don't have a MAF on them like an OEM 18 Mustang. So to use an OEM calibration, I can't do any of that. I have to use the custom logic. Now, if we did I would prefer to use an OEM calibration because then I have access to all the extra trans stuff that other softwares don't have access to. The stuff that makes Jesus's car go 860s or Ali's car go 880s. The Roush file that is accessible in the softwares doesn't have all the same access. And to add it, I would need a special file through special people. And to get that is near impossible because it is a custom strategy. So someone else asked in here along the same little off subject, why does PBD offer trans brake tune and Lund doesn't? Well, they are using HP Tuner's trans brake. It's not PBD's trans brake. And they're talking about the 2018. And we don't because we're not using HP Tuner software. And that's custom stuff that was added in by HP Tuners. I don't like it because there's 2 methods to use it. It's the brake pedal and some weird Super Nintendo controller combination to get to it via the steering wheel, or you can use the paddles. But how do you tie a 2-step to it? To tie a 2-step to those buttons in the steering wheel is a pretty big task. So I prefer using the relays, and I have a diagram, and you have to have a tune from us to shut off everything necessary to make it work. And it works great. Jesus's car uses it. Other cars have used it, and it works in first and second gear with the clutches that we engage. I don't know if HP Tuners works in first and second gear.
Now, the quickest NA car on the planet?
Oh, and I guess Steeda's car has a trans brake from us on it. Yeah.
Exactly. So what I tell people is about that. I go, we don't offer it, and they say, why not? I say, this is why. The quickest NA car on the planet has a not traditional, but more of a conventional setup, right? 2-step. And why do you want a 2-step, right? Because you want to hold the RPM at a certain RPM. You don't want it to just zing up. Now, with a stock converter and no 2-step, what happens? It only stalls up to what? The stall speed of the converter?
Yeah, and it would depend on your torque level. So if you have a blower, it's going to push the converter a little bit. Turbos probably be similar to NA, but on a turbo, it's really important to have a 2-step because that's what gets the turbo lit hot. It gets hot and it spools. If you don't have that, it's not going to spool as much as it. If you don't have a 2-step and you have a trans brake on a turbo, the 2-step on the trans brake is going to spool more boost than the no 2-step.
I'm kind of befuddled why a naturally aspirated guy wants to bump in.
The bump. I forgot about the bump feature. I don't see the merit in bumping NA because it comes up on the trans brake so fast.
Right. But they want to have the ability to bump in to look like they have a turbo or something.
I'm trying to avoid the word, but it's gimmicky. That's really what it is. That the bump for probably 80% of the people that are going to use it, it's a gimmick. It's no different. I would put it underneath the Ghost Cam tune as far as how gimmicky it is.
Right.
But at least the Ghost Cam tune sounds good.
Right, exactly. I was gonna say, do I think the Ghost Cam tune is not gimmicky? No, I think it's great because people love to go to the Kroger parking lot and choppity chop with their boys, and that's good. But then at the end of the day, what are you going to bump in at the parking lot? Because at the track, if you start bumping in, you're like, wait, you're an NA car. Why are you bumping in? Just foot brake. Right. And Lund Racing went 1090s on a foot brake.
Right.
NA.
Right.
So it kind of blows my mind. But look, I understand they want it just because it's available, so they want it. Do you see any long-term ill effects from something like that with the 10R80 potentially?
So funny you mentioned that. Someone came up to me at PRI that was using the HP Tuners trans brake, and they said that part of their transmission got injured from it. I don't know any more details than that. Obviously we're at PRI, so it's not like he can show me what parts broke.
But think about what's happening inside the transmission at that point, and think about how often someone who knows it's gimmicky is going to use it. Like they're going to abuse it, right? They're constantly going to be bumping in. They're constantly going to.
Well,
so what do you think? What do you think happens internally to the transmission while you're doing that stupid shit?
I mean, it's rocking everything. Like if we're going to talk about what it's doing to that, it has a really long shaft in that trans. It's sitting there rocking from one end to the other. The clutches that are being released and put back together quickly. That's going to jar some stuff. Can't be good for the front pump. Can't be good for any of that. Now, trans brake in of itself is harder on the transmission, and everyone that's going to be using that would understand that. And I would hope the people with the bump would too.
I really think they don't. I really think they don't understand it. I think because it's available and the way it's, my biggest issue with the industry, right? I come from a industrial background. So when I got in this industry, for lack of a better word, most of it is full of shit, right? So they tell you whatever they need to tell you to sell you a part. So then when you see people promote certain things, they're like, oh my God, this is so awesome. So it makes you think, I need this. I absolutely need this in my vehicle. And then when your car breaks, you're like, wait a minute, it was going to break. They didn't warn me. Well, you would think common sense comes into play at that point. But at the end of the day, a lot of people just don't have common sense and use something thinking it's going to. I'll give you an example. Me, this car right here, this red car, I had a 950 rear wheel horsepower car that I stupidly daily drove at 950 rear wheel horsepower, and I broke everything in it. And you know why? I thought to myself, well, the trans is built, the motor's built, everything's built. I broke everything in this motherfucker. And I thought to myself, well, I can't drive around at 950 wheel on this car. I should have just put an 82 on it, drive at 700 and been okay. But then I thought, you know what? Let me put everything in a lighter car. I came to my senses. I said, okay, that's over. Let me put it in a lighter car. And the drivetrain has, less of a hard time pushing that weight around than 4,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone falls into that little belief, it's invincible, it's built. Do you know how many times I've heard it's built, and because it's built, it shouldn't break?
Right. Everything has its limit.
Now, going forward with 10R80, I'd like to stick on 10R80 because I think this year a lot of 10R80 cars are really going to be going after it. Couple of guys who just got into 10R80 cars, the street car takeover guys, they got some pro chargers in those cars and they're going real fast. And of course, one of them already experienced what happens when you put a lot of power into a 10R80 car, right? The transmission tends to go, So what do you foresee? Obviously, Manuel has done some work with clutches, and I forget the manufacturer that came out with clutches. What do you foresee for parts? And Circle D came out with a converter already. So, I mean, this year, I think 8s is going to be pretty common, I would think, with 10R80, which has a clutch pack and a converter, no?
Yeah, so McLeod gets the clutches from Ray Bestis, which is pretty good. We have, I think, Power by the Hour uses them for their custom clutch packs. And we have the paper in our, when I say paper, I'm talking about the clutch pack material. We have the same stuff in our blue car. So we know they hold power pretty good as long as you can stack the clutches. The only downside is McLeod doesn't add count to the clutches or steels. So the holding capacity goes up a little bit. We don't know how far it'll take us. On the 880 car, Ollie's 2018, the Whipple, it just has the basic clutch kit, nothing added, and it has a converter. And immediately it shifted. It actually short shifted the very first pass because that's where I had the shifts targeted, because in order to make it shift on the stock trans, I had to short shift stuff because the clutches were slipping. And when you're tuning something brand new and that you have to do that, you start second guessing what's going on. You have this inclination that something that is happening in the trans, but you can't really prove it until they pull it apart. And sure enough, when he pulls it apart, after it wouldn't shift out of nowhere at one track event, I'm like, okay, the trans is officially slipping. Sure enough, it burned up some clutches, and I'm like, okay, when you put the new clutches in it, I'm not going to change anything. I want to see what happens. Goes out, same tune. It shifts on my target or underneath my target.
Wow, that's crazy.
I've never heard of a 6R80 shifting underneath the target at that power level easily. So the changes I was making to try to make it shift better started coming in full circle, and which is great for me because I'm like, I've never been so excited to see a 6,000 RPM shift on a 2.3. and it went 9.0s that way. So when it went to 888, I had bumped the shift points up, and then by the time I got to where I had the shift points where I wanted them, the belt started slipping. So I was actually able to get it to do a 7,500, 7,600 shift on the dot at that power level, which we're going to call high 900 to the tire, just with ease. And that's been the easiest that I've had any time with a 10R80. If I had that with Jesus's car and we were able to put it, 20 pounds of boost down the track with no clutch slip, I think that the car would have done 840s or quicker at probably $166, $167, which is just insane to like.
You would have had every shop telling you that thing is built and not believe you at all. They would have said, It's built. Fuck you. You're a liar. It's built. I don't care what you say. And it's almost a good thing that it didn't do that because, remember when the record first got, established, the 6R80 record, there was all rumors everywhere. And unfortunately, how do you verify if something has what you say it has? Let's say if I say it's stock, I'm not going to go ahead and pull it apart and show you stock pistons and verify that everything's stock because honestly, I don't care to prove it to anyone. But Jesus' car was as stock as it could be, and now it's on its way to having a built motor. So I'll just leave it at that. Yeah, we can't say. And that's the other thing. That's the hardest thing I've done in this industry, right? Biting my tongue. And I remember when there were certain people coming after me, certain manufacturers coming after me. I know I got shit on them, but I can't say nothing. You know why? Because it's a bad look, and that's not my place to say anything.
I think at some point there will be a place. I don't know when that is. We're in the like I said earlier, we're in the age of chaotic information. So while it's funny, it used to be the opposite. I think it used to be easier to approach people and say what you wanted. Now it's harder to do that, and it's just easy to blab everything and get away with it sometimes because you can just type and hide behind your keyboard. Keyboard warrior is truth this day and age. So I'm looking at somebody's question up here. He said, "What is the rev?"
Go ahead.
What is the rev limiter set out on a 14 GT500 and was it set on 11 GT5? I think I don't have I could pull it up on my computer, but I'm pretty sure it's
GT500 is a 6800, 13, 14.
Yeah, we bump it to 6800. Oh, is he talking OEM or with a tune?
I would say with a tune because he's talking to tuners, right?
With a tune, I would call the 14 Shelby 6800 to 6900, and the 11 Shelby we do 65. I'm pretty sure.
Right. Because I've gotten some people, because back in the day when I worked at my previous job, I said that a 13 to 14 GT500 is more wrung out from the factory than an 11, an 07 to 12. And you know how much flack I got for that? Like from GT500 owners saying, what do you mean it's more wrung out? I'm like, well, it has higher compression and it's made to rev higher. So I don't want to say it's maxed out, but there's more strain on it than a 07 to 12. And people are like, no way, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. They even emailed my bosses, would say, is Alex right saying that these are wrung out bitches? What is going on? So, and then you look at the OEM calibration and you're like, yeah, they rev higher and they have higher compression. That is literally the definition of, I don't want to say wrung out like to the extreme where they're going to explode, but 13 and 14 GT500s are maxed out more so than 07 to 12. Am I wrong to say that?
You're not wrong. You're not wrong at all.
Okay, because when I mentioned that, I was coming from a a place with data. I wasn't just saying shit because I hated the 13, 14 DT500s. And a lot of people say, well, why? Okay, I'll ask you a question.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever, okay, out of all the GT500s, because now we'll stop with the hardcore tuning stuff, but we'll get more about opinion. If you had a perfect GT500 that you would buy, what would be it? Because seniors is hard to beat, and I know it's kind of spoiling being around that car, but
I like the interior of the 13 Plus more than I do the older ones. All I know is his 2007. So when he had that, because I drove it a lot, and I definitely like the 13 interior better. As far as where you can take them, I would pick the later one purely because of the PCM, but you could also do the same with a 2011. You know, as far as building the motor and where you can take the computer, you know, where the computer can take you as far as tunability. So I definitely like tuning stuff with the OEM widebands more than I do not. So 2010 and older, no.
yeah, and that's the other thing. A lot of people wonder why a remote tuner would deny 3 valves, Cobras, 2 valves, and not necessarily older GT500s. For whatever reason, older GT500s, which I do love, tune damn well. Like, you really have to try hard to fuck those cars up. Like, you really have to try hard. And those with a wideband, like a ZT2 setup, are a dream. I mean, I just think they start running, they just do what they do. So yeah, I would tell people my favorite would be like an 11 to 12, only because the transmission is 297 first, and you have the option of a 373 rear gear, whereas you don't with 13, 14. That's it. And a lot of people say, well, it's because of the engine. I think I can make 850 wheel on both,
Yeah.
pretty easily.
Yeah.
In stock form. Anything past that, you're just rolling dice, and you're waiting for a rod to go, as your boy Cletus found out with his '07 engine, unfortunately.
Yeah, both I think suffer from the same issue with the rods. So definitely there. Somebody asked, why does my 18 GT shift so hard at half throttle? To be honest, I don't know. He's tuned to Carolina Speedworks. If it's naturally aspirated, I don't know what you're talking about, honestly, because that calibration I drove daily for a long time, and your half throttle may not be my half throttle. I don't know if that makes sense.
It does.
So
trust me.
It's probably not really half throttle, and it's probably seeing a lot of torque. So it's at a torque level where the PCM is going to command more shift pressure. So it may actually be wide open throttle.
A lot of people
may be open all the way.
Yeah, a lot of people do this
it's
where
pro-charged.
It's pro charge. So
and
yeah,
the reason is it's forced drag mode to make it shift better at wide open throttle. So it's going to shift firmer at part throttle and half throttle. Half throttle on a pro charge car, you're in boost. So, but it does have torque reduction on. I haven't on our base file. I don't shut it off or anything. So it's going to cut spark on the shifts.
I'm still finding out that people are still not wanting, and I don't want to say complain. They comment, why doesn't it shift like stock? Well, you bought a performance tune, right? You purchased a performance tune, and you want it to drive like stock. Only stock drives like stock, right? So a lot of people with a blower, like he just mentioned, say, well, why does it shift firmer and wide open throttle? Because it's at 1.5 load.
Yeah, well, and I understand what he's talking about, because our Whipple car, when it was in that power level, it's easy to go into boost with it, and when it goes into boost and you're trying to half throttle like up a on ramp or something, it's going to row through all 15 gears. It feels like it has. And it like that, and it'll kick you in the seat a little bit, but it's not neck breaking shifts. It doesn't feel like something's wrong. It just doesn't feel like it did stock. So if I left it with the stock feeling shifts, you would complain, because it doesn't feel very good when the clutches are slipping more when there's more load. It feels not very organic with the power level. So I've driven a car a 10R80 where I left it all stock, and man, it does not shift good at wide open throttle. It's like what, like that. It's bad. So
Burning all the clutches.
yeah, I
Yes.
mean, it's more about it, and I wouldn't even say it's about clutch life. It's just about the I would say it's to get the goal of making it down the track. You know, if it does slip and the transmission senses that, it's going to fail it into neutral. So drag mode just works, and Ford did a really good job with it out the box. So
Very cool. So give the people out there that an update on Blue Goose, what the plans are for 2019 this year. What are the plans with Blue Goose? What are we looking to run with it? What events are we going to attend, if any?
So we pulled the motor, or Senior pulled the motor, and we took the motor out of the gray car and sent it to Keith at Wonder Racing because we wanted to change some stuff on it. So we just got that motor back, I believe, and we're going to lock the cams on it. So we're getting rid of the VCT, and that's more so we don't have to deal with some issues that we suspect may happen at higher loads. We did have some issues initially with oil, and it's mostly oil capacity as far as making the phasers phase properly. And we're using all OEM components. We didn't have any GT350 solenoids or anything, which do help. But instead of going down that road and just to make life simple, we want to lock the cams, and we want to be able to have that R&D option, you know, because there's not many locked cam S550s out there with boost, because I don't think a lot of people know how to tune them. I've tuned a few, and it's not that difficult. So we're going to do that. We don't have to worry about the cams moving, doing whatever they're doing. Obviously, we still have to worry about oil, but it's from a standpoint of where the oil is in the pan as far as the car accelerating. So we got some tricks for that, because you can get, when you start cutting sub 120 60 foots, you got to worry about the oil getting to every part of the block underneath. So, and that's a good and bad problem to have. It's like, all right, we're accelerating hard, but now we got all these problems. So same thing applies to fuel in the tank. But if you run half a tank with a return fuel system, you're good to go. So what else are we changing? Fuel system, we're changing the regulator, because we think that the 4 regulator we have, not anything against 4, I just think that maybe it's the regulator and the life that we've had through it. I think it's I don't remember how old it is. It's like 3 or 4 years. We were getting some pressure drop, and it was causing some issues with fuel delivery. So
Okay.
we're going to change fuel too. I think we're going to do Q16, and the goals are faster than 778, quicker. I personally want to see the car go over 185 mile an hour. And I want to see at least a 750 out of it. And it can be a 759,999. So I'll be happy. And that doesn't seem like much gain over 778, but we're at that level where going from, 2/10 is a lot.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's massive, because I remember people, well, we're talking about 2/10, but I remember people when I ran 9-1 in the red car, people were like, "You're right there." I'm like, "No, I'm not."
right.
I mean, 2/10, and I cut a 135. Everything was perfect, and I went, "Shit, that might be it."
Yeah.
I think that's all the car has, because everything went. It saw good timing. Everything was perfect, and it could muster a 9-1. I'm not gonna all of a sudden, out of my ass, have 60 to 80 more horse. It's just not gonna happen. So I knew.
It's
I think this is
exponential.
all.
Yeah.
Yeah, a lot of people think 50 horse equals this. Well, it does at 400 wheel, but when you get to 900 1,000 wheel, you need just like almost double sometimes to get you. What's going on with your camera over there? You're coming in and out.
My battery's at 20% for some
Oh,
reason.
okay, that's not bad. You're not plugged in, dude. You should see the setup. I have so many things plugged in. It's not even funny right now.
I have this iPhone problem where my port for my headphones is at the bottom, so I can't plug in to an outlet. So if,
Yeah,
if I have to, I may have to switch to my computer, and I'll just use the webcam.
Okay.
Oh
So
wait,
you
I don't have a webcam. I may be audio before it's over with.
That's fine. So Grey Goose is going to take a bit of a backseat until Blue Goose gets, because that one
Well,
seems to be priority, for lack of a
the
better
blue
word.
the Blue Goose motor is going to go to Keith, and it's going to get some extra special sauce done to it, and we're going to do Keith's dry deck. It's like a semi-dry deck system where the block and head are filled slightly, and you still run coolant through both, but you get strength, lots of strength at the top of the cylinder. And he's doing some other stuff to help with the head rigidity, because the heads at high power tend to move around a lot on the Coyote, due to physics and how they're set up. No one makes a billet head that I'm aware of,
Right.
which would be expensive. But so we just kind of got to take that in stride. We don't need a lot of power with that car to go quick with it. The same power level from the blue car and that gray car would go bottom sevens.
Stupid. Yeah.
So
Someone,
what we're going to worry about is power delivery. So
God, someone actually paid to ask a question.
yeah.
So yeah. So
the release of the ID 607 brushless pump. So they told me at PRI probably it's not going to be first quarter this year. I think it may be end of second quarter. So we're talking summer, maybe.
right.
And they're supposed to be coming out with ID 2550Xs, which is another injector.
Shit.
And it's stainless internals, and they're huge. So that.
Yep. And I happen to have one of the new bodies, and there's the body, because that's what it'll look like. It'll just look like a big orifice, just like that.
And
holy shit, that's a big injector.
The pump they've been doing a lot of research on, and every year it seems like the pump outputs more. I think they said it'll support. What did they say? One pump, I believe, previous PRI, one pump was 1,000 wheel on E85, which is insane. I think it's more than that now. One pump is more than that. So one controller controls one pump, and that's how it works. So if you want to run two pumps, you have two of their controllers.
Two controllers.
It's going to be pricey, but you could have a full electric fuel system with two pumps that supports like 3,500 horsepower, like more than you'll ever need. So
we say that, but we're literally okay. So 5 years ago, 1,700 horsepower was unheard of, right? 1,700 rear wheel to something, or even flywheel. By all intents and purposes, or by all metrics, doesn't Blue Goose make 1,500 crank right now?
Blue Goose makes, if you take the 180 trap, it was making probably 1,500 to the tire. So we're talking almost 1,800 crank.
Holy shit.
And
that's ridiculous. Out of a 5 liter.
Yeah. And the if we consider the slip it had and 36 pounds of boost, it was probably making 1,600 to the, well, if it had not had the slip it had, if it had put the power to the tire, it would have been 1,600 to the tire. We're at the point where 1 pound of boost adds like 35 horse. So it's ridiculous. Wow. Like I just left timing and I just keep adding boost. Somebody paid you more money.
Yeah. Nickel's one of those guys that I was tuning at VMP. We did really well over there, and I'm very flattered. He came over to the Lund camp and followed us and went even quicker. And he's one of those guys that has a manual S550.
Yeah.
And I think it's like an 11.3, 11.2 car. Dude can drive, and he races the shit out of it. So he's wondering on the Viking coilover front suspension. You have a lot of experience with it because of the Blue Goose. Can you give him an example as to what are the benefits, whether it's worth it or not on a manual car? What do you think on his car at his power level? Should he go Viking coilover fronts?
So I had a customer, Danny, I think his name was. He had an NA S550. It went 11.0. I don't remember what he had on suspension, but the car was light. So that changes things with how the front end comes up when you have a lightened suspension.
Right.
So it kind of depends. Will it hurt to go to Viking coilovers up front? It will not, because if you can, with the IRS, if you can get the front to stay up to help I hate using weight transfer, but really with the IRS, you have to utilize it because you can't really adjust the anti-squat on the car without changing angles of front to rear height. So
Right.
There's some tricks and stuff. If he wants to email about it, we can give it. I don't know if I want to give him the info. I don't know if I want to give everybody info for $10.
Hey, Nickel White, do us a favor. Okay, you're a current customer. Reply to one of your tickets, and I'll talk to Junior, and we'll see what we can do to get you squared away on suspension setup. We'll do our best to get you dialed in based on the stuff that we have learned, but we definitely don't want to give it away because how long did that take to R&D? Like months, right? Like months and months to dial in. So we're not just going to give it away on a live stream, but email us at Lundrace, support at lundracing.com, and we'll get you taken care of. So yeah, it's pretty funny because that's the other thing I talk about in terms of experience, right? A lot of people, and this was back even in the Fox Body days, because I'm an old fart. Like a lot of people would come up to me and say, hey, look, I see that your car is running 11/8 naturally aspirated. What did you do to get there? And I would hesitate to give them the answer because it took me a year or two to kick it. This control arm, this carb, this much timing, this tire. Fuck you. I mean, figure it out. You know what I mean?
Right.
So a lot of people get mad when you don't tell them exactly what you did when it took me a year to get there, and they just want to shortcut everything and get there quicker.
Yeah, it's eventually the information will be out there, but yeah,
it takes a little while. Eventually, it does get out there. I'm gonna go to some.
He understands. He understands. I'm gonna stay on, but
your battery's dying.
I'm gonna give you guys a inadvertent tour of the house because I'm gonna go get my charger.
All right, let me go through the questions here. Sorry, guys, if I haven't gotten to your questions. We've been on for about 50 minutes, and the first 10 minutes of that was setup. And I'll post that shit. I don't care. I dropped the phone. I did a whole bunch of stuff. So let me go back a little bit and see about, is there any problems tuning drivability? Cobra Jet manifold with twin turbo, 5-liter, 2011 to 14 MT82. No, I don't think there'll be any issues tuning that setup, 5.0 Khalid. Again, it's all dependent on the parts that you have, and as long as the turbo setup is kosher, the hard part you're going to find is pretty much joining up the coupling the charge pipe to the oval style upper throttle body area. That's probably the only issue you're going to have. Everything else will be good. AKDMB, my God, he's been around since the VMP days, I think. Mustang MT82, got any tips on getting stronger engine braking during diesel fuel shutoff? Tip out diesel. Would you suggest modifying diesel torque decay, or instead play with the intake cam timing during diesel? Honestly, I wonder why people want to rely on the engine brake that much. I don't understand why they want to rely on the engine brake that much. When you have a brake, you can just hit the brake. But some people, for whatever reason, either what they want for decel popping, meaning they think that that'll cause more decel pop. I think at the end of the day, if you're using it for strictly deceleration, I wouldn't really modify it that much. It's not something that we really modify. The car's engine brake from stock, and we really don't modify those tables that much. Mad Dog Mark, he paid money, $7.77. What a weird number. 2019 Mustang GT PP2 naturally aspirated with long tube headers, cold air intake, and a ported manifold, 409 gears and 85. What do you recommend to make the car run faster at the drag strip? So it's a manual. So basically at this point at the drag strip, so you have a PP2 car, you have a car that's meant to turn, and you basically want to negate what makes it turn to make it go straight. So that means a looser front end, right? Which it has a big sway bar, it has a tight suspension, it has big front tires, it has everything big in it. So you have to treat that car, if you want to make it go faster in a straight line, you have to, whatever makes it turn, you have to pretty much get rid of that. And I honestly wouldn't. If anything, I would just concentrate on driving technique. A lot of these cars, the suspension, the way it's set up is pretty decent. That car's probably a good 1170, 1180 car if the forks don't explode on the 2-3 shift in the transmission. So I think at the end of the day, slipping the clutch properly, because the clutch is going to be your fuse, having a drag radial or a bias ply on it. Half shafts are going to be an issue because the half shafts, for whatever reason on these cars, are on the weaker side, in my opinion, than 15 to 17. So slip the clutch, make it your fuse, get a decent drag radius or a decent bias ply tire on there. A shifter is going to help you shifting, but again, if everything stays together, that car should be an 1170, 1160 car pretty easily the way it sits. Oh gosh, what is this? Alex, have you ever tried tuning with pressure transducer spark plugs? Hey John, have you ever heard of pressure transducer spark plugs?
I have not.
Yeah, I don't even know what the hell that is. What are your suggestions for staging a single turbo T56 Coyote? That's tough because you got to get up on the chip, right? This is my suggestions. Stage first. Seriously, stage first. I mean, some people wait on the other guy. Fuck all that. If you get in there and there is no courtesy staging, get your ass in there and get up on the chip and be ready. If there is courtesy staging, stage first. Like make sure you pre-stage and the moment he pre-stages, you get in there and get up on the chip. If it takes a long time to get up on the chip on a manual car, your turbo is probably way too big. Okay. Someone said rock on. Da, 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 da. Appreciate all the info on your channel, Alex. Bandy says,
Can you still hear me?
thank you for you and Lund and all the information in between. I really can't wait to grab a 19 GT for myself to gap the uncle's 2010 SS. That's going to be pretty easy. 2010 SSs are absolute garbage. They suck. They're heavy. They're terrible. So there you are, John.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear you. It's a little muffled, but I definitely can hear you. So it's not like I can't hear you at all.
Yeah, I switched my Bluetooth headset.
Okay, you might have to like yell into it or something. Oh my God, some guy paid $10. What is wrong with you people? Oh, Jesus. Okay. Thoughts on Samtech EFI calibration class, the tuning school courses, and other tuning education services for people wanting to learn. How does one get started with tuning formally besides is it OJT? I don't know what OJT is. I thought that said like over the pants hand job, but it's like OJT. On the job. Okay.
I've never heard of Samtech EFI. Oh, the tuning school I've heard of.
Right.
Honestly, I don't really. I hate saying this, but I don't have a good answer. I think it would maybe be like a good starter for somebody that wants to learn, but everybody at Lund Racing, I think, learned well. Dakota and Brandon learned it's all baptism by fire, unfortunately. They took some courses through SCT for some stuff, but nothing really like that though. And
yeah, most of us learn by doing.
Yeah,
yeah,
by fire.
I remember when I started working for Lund Racing, and the training was, let's just say, less than adequate. Not no fault of Lund Racing, but the training I was getting was less than adequate. I basically started just flashing the car myself and saying, "Fuck it, let me see what happens." And through trial and error, I learned a decent amount. But it was mostly trial by fire. It was like, do it, do it, do it, do it. You fucked up. Luckily these cars can let you get away with it a little bit, as long as you don't really throw 40 degrees at it, you should be okay. But when I went over to VMP, I learned a little more based on going backwards, right? 2-valve, 3-valve, older stuff made me understand how Coyote got there. I'm like, oh, this is similar. Oh crap! And then I started seeing how VCT worked on 3-valves, and I was like, and then knock sensors on 3-valves, and it made me go, holy shit! And then once I came back to Lund Racing, I hit the ground running because I knew enough to at least make us go, boom, I got a guy that comes in right now and he's going to work right now. There's no training needed. Give him the software. He's going to be good. The 18 stuff, I'm still a little green on, but I'm getting there. And that's why I bought the vehicle. At the end of the day, I bought the 15 to learn 15 fast, so I tune it every day. I bought the 18/19 to do the same thing.
Well, and to add to that, there's two sides to tuning. There is understanding the basics and some of the non-basics for just how an engine works and how to tune an engine. The other side is, and this is, I would say, sometimes is the more difficult part for some people, is knowing where to go in the software
what software to use, what exactly you're changing, because it may not match what you know as far as tuning an engine. A lot of it goes back to understanding, like, you know, how a carburetor works. Now, I can't say that I understand 100% how all of it works, but because I've learned on fuel injection, but John Sr. and yourself and Matt are pretty decent with carburetors. Having that experience as a base layer probably really helps when it comes to fuel injection. And then I know we got Brandon and Dakota.
No, Rami Zaidan said to talk harder, not louder. Talk harder.
Talk harder.
Hey, man, what was it? Talk harder.
Different on this one.
Yeah, it's a little more muffled, but look, I can hear you. These people just need to put on a headset. But the way he said "talk harder" made me laugh. Like talk like a thug.
How is this? Am I
no, I think that no, it sounds even worse when you get closer. It sounds like it's garbled. So can you just yell into the computer? Does it have a built-in mic?
I could do the computer.
Oh, okay, but yeah, like the base layer of tuning is usually an understanding of engines. John is really good about telling you to slow everything down, right? Make sure everything slows down in your head. The combustion event, what happens when detonation happens, the piston rattle. If you can envision what is happening in the engine, and if you understand how engines work and what they need, you literally have a leg up on tuning. Whereas other people who had no idea how to tune, but are good with computers can probably do okay. But when it comes to the diagnosing of things, they'll be just lost puppies.
Yep. Basically.
In my opinion.
Yep, I agree 100%.
Edelbrock E-Force on the 18 A10, stage 1 and 2. That is you, because you have actually tuned one, Devil Bliss's car.
Did he say F-150 or just regular?
No, a 2018 automatic Mustang.
I don't remember what's in the stage 2, I guess, the throttle body.
Yes, and then injectors. It's the same blower, basically, yeah.
Yeah, it seems to tune. I haven't had any issues. I don't have anything bad or good to say. I mean, it's like tuning a Whipple.
Right. Exactly. So when are you going? This guy wants to know, when are you going to DFW for on-site tuning for local customer? Doesn't that sound like the biggest nightmare on the planet right there? Like on-site tuning. So the guy's over your shoulder going, well, how much spark you gonna give it? I had a Fox body back in the day, and I used to turn the distributor to the right. What are you doing there? Fuck out of here.
I know this customer. He has a twin turbo car.
Oh, well, what are you doing to my car? Right over your shoulder, smelling his breath.
I think he's half joking.
So other things that come up, people ask, is the Steeda tune a production file tune, or is it a hot tune? Who cares if it blows up tune? Like a lot of people think we play favorites, right? They think, well, we're going to make him go fast and we're going to give him half the sauce. We'll give him ketchup. We'll give him the sauce. So tell people, no, what is the sauce? Like, what is the sauce?
So I can say Steeda's car doesn't have anything special in it as far as what I wouldn't run on another guy trying to achieve the same goal. So the sauce, I think people define that. I had a discussion with Manuel once. He's the one that he coined that term. The sauce is us being available or working with a customer to achieve a goal. So it's not so much, throwing the beans at it like, here's 40 degrees of timing, like throwing caution to the wind. Because none of these guys, they say they don't care if it blows up, but it's like that stupid Pikachu meme where, it's like,
it blew up? Yeah. Shit, I can't believe it.
Let's send it, and then it blows up. They want to at least send it for a couple passes before it blows up.
Right.
So somehow we have to maintain that guarantee. So the sauce
Rami's
is just that, though.
Yeah, exactly.
Have a super spicy sauce, because like Brandon and Dakota found out in the last week, when you put too much spicy sauce on your food, it ruins the taste of the food.
Oh, no shit. I mean, I don't understand the whole hot sauce.
They're going, oh, my stomach. Oh, like,
yeah.
you know,
It's like, of course. What do you think?
And I'm over here like I enjoyed my Chipotle,
Yeah.
you know, with normal mild sauce on it.
Right.
So,
And then they wonder why they're farting fire all day. And they're like, what happened? I'm like, what do you mean what happened? You're eating hot sauce and it's not natural to have that much concentrated hot anything in your stomach.
notice how people just say they want the sauce. They don't want the hot sauce.
Right. Exactly. Now, Rami is a good example of someone who gets the sauce. Now, what is that? Attention. And why does he get attention? Because he gets me logs that are perfect. He goes to the track and tests, and tests. The guy is meticulous with his customers, so he gets attention. So most of his customers run a damn good number because he says, Alex, are you available? Yep, let's schedule it. I'll be there. And you get that treatment. People think they don't get that on a bass tune. It's not that. It's that if you pay for the track support and everything, we will give you the same attention we give every high-end client.
Yeah, and that's a good segue into we can answer this $10
This
question.
$10 question. You guys are psychopaths. What is wrong with you?
The segue will be next into our trackside support, our remote trackside support offering that we're officially have now. You know.
Right.
So
let me read this question real quick. Kinnis the Menace says, love the channel. I have a 2017 5.0 with Cook's headers, 3-inch exhaust, C&L cold air intake, and a VMP tune. I don't want to change intake manifold because I want to eventually supercharge it. What should I do to get ready? So he eventually wants to supercharge the car with a stock intake manifold, and I believe it's a manual. It doesn't say. But let's say, who cares, right? Let's say if it's a stock manifold Paxton or stock manifold, because obviously he wants to keep the manifold, so he's not going to get a top mount or PD blower. So he's either going to go turbo, Vortec, Paxton, or Pro Charger, right?
Yeah, but then he said turbo is off the list.
Turbo, okay, turbo's off the list. Okay, no problem. So at the end of the
unless he's game for turbo.
Exactly. So a stock manifold is fine. I haven't seen any issues with stock manifold. What manifold is on the blue midnight car that goes the owner of Mexico Racing League? Maya?
Brian Luna. He has an
Brian
18
Luna.
manifold.
He's got an 18 manifold.
Yeah, I would say if you're gonna do a blow through setup, blow through being there's boost before the throttle body. I would do an 18 manifold on any 2011 to 17.
Yep.
Because it's just best bang for buck. And for a supercharger, I personally like Paxton and Vortec because of the mass placement. But Pro Charger works. And we won't go into details, but
exactly.
Paxton and Vortec. So
exactly.
I had a Vortec on our blue car and I loved it.
Yep, which is now sitting in my garage, and I still haven't put it on. Don't get me started on that, jeez. But let's talk about the remote trackside support. Let's talk about what that product is and what the intent of that product is.
So I'm going to put a link in here.
Sure.
Because I think I can do that. So the trackside support is something that I think we've probably been doing since the beginning of Lund racing. But we haven't really had a solid support plan for it as far as charging people. And obviously we have cars that we sponsor, like our dealers. We'll just use them as it's kind of like automatic sponsorship as a dealer for their shop cars. We don't charge them, but for trackside support, when they go to an event, we're typically available through that weekend. Or sometimes we go to the event just because we want to go. And we don't charge anybody that comes to us at the event with a data log if they're running in like True Street at NMRA or whatever. But we're getting to that point now where we have so much volume and we all have lives outside of Lund racing that, and do back to the conversation we had with instant access through Facebook and Instagram and whatever. People can just private message you. Hey, I'm at the track. Can you look at this log? And it's like somehow they know that you're sitting on your butt, not doing anything. But it's like they think that we're not doing anything when we actually are doing something. And you feel, my first instinct is like, I ain't looking at that. And then I think, well, if I do look at it and I could get them to go a number, then it'd be really good because then 5 more people will buy tunes. So that's my logic. So I end up getting sucked into it. But I try to control that and not do it often. I tell you guys not to do it and to schedule it. So, but we don't make any money off of it, really, and we shouldn't really play favorites with anybody. We don't really have a good sponsorship program per se. So really, people need to pay for our time. And when it comes to our hours, we work 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. After 5 o'clock, if we're going to support your vehicle at the track, it's the pricing is $150 for 4 hours of our time. That's a 4-hour window, and that's typically what it is. They go to the track, they get there by 6 or 7, and the track's usually only open till 10 or 11. So unless you're midnight performance and you go to some back,
you rent the track for the whole night.
Yeah, well, till 6 o'clock in the morning. So apparently, so yeah. But that's what we're trying to get at. And then on the weekends, obviously, it's weekend time. For me, I'm with the family, and my wife definitely doesn't like when I have to, the night before, I'm like, hey, tomorrow, Saturday, are we doing anything? And she instantly knows, like, who needs help. And I'm going to be sitting on my butt all day because I'm waiting for an email to come in or this or that. And it would be nice to know that you're getting compensated for that time because it is family time. So, or private time or whatever. So our new policy is if you need to schedule something, if you want us to be available live while you're at the track, we need it to be scheduled 7 days in advance, 7 business days, so it's a little over a week. That way we have time to plan it. And you can read all this on that link that I posted, and I'll post it again right now since it almost got lost. And for the weekend, it's $225 for 4 hours, and it's basically time and a half that I'm charging. And that seems fair to me. I talked to a lot of people. I mean, I've been asking customers for probably almost a year before putting this into place because I wanted to get a feel. There's other companies that probably don't charge that much, but I don't feel like it's really worth our time to do something for that long for cheap. So, because when you're at the track and you're trying to get passes in, you send a log, you want us to reply like that. Well, if you hit us up that night saying you're going to do that, what benefit is it to us to sit there and reply back to you quickly when you hit us up last minute? If it's planned in advance, we're gung-ho, we got the Dunkin' Donut coffee ready, Red Bull, whatever, and we're going to stay up and we're going to try to help you out. I don't know, there's a term for it where you someone pays you and you're motivated. It's incentive, really, is what it is. But
it is incentive, yes.
When you have that incentive for a person that, and this is how everyone works at Lund Racing, when you're driven by incentive, you do better. So you provide the best service. So that's really what it is. And I posted it up online, and the reception is really good. A lot of people liked it. No one hated on anything. So I don't want to encourage everybody right now to go schedule a bunch of trackside support.
Right.
But what does it entail detail-wise? Obviously, you've already kind of dove into it a little bit with Rami, but if you're remote, you got to make sure you have an internet connection. Most people do if they have, LTE, whatever, at the track, and you basically go do your pass or whatever. Like if we're going to dial in the car at the track, some people want to do that. They want to do watt poles, single gear hits at the track and not on the street. That's perfectly fine.
Right.
We can do that, and then we dial in shift points and blah blah blah, and it's just back and forth with data logs and any criticism, trying to dial it in, and we have some leeway. Let's say you break at the track, on your first pass. Sure, we'll carry that over to another day. We're not going to charge
Correct.
you again. We're going to
Yes.
have, and if you go to 4.5 hours, are we going to charge you extra? No. If you go to 5 hours, maybe not. There's going to be some leeway. So now, if you don't, the one thing you guys can't do is, I want to run this number. Well, you're not paying for us to make you run that number. You're paying for our time to be available to try to run that number. So that's the key note. What I don't want to happen is someone had a goal and they don't hit it and they feel like they wasted money.
Right.
You know, sometimes it's just not there for that night. You could be dealing with traction issues and you make 10 hits and there's traction issues that are limiting your EP, but everything else is good in the tune and we're available for 4 hours. We're not going to give you a refund for our time. So
I have one of Rami's customers, Hector. He has a TVS equipped S550, and they've tried tire sizes, they've tried this and this and that to get it to go. They're at the point now where the car needs to get lighter. Okay, there's not much else you can do to the car to this point because it is a full weight car. It needs a drag pack, it needs the seats removed. You know, if you want to go any quicker than it currently can, or the way it's currently configured, they definitely need to start looking to make it lighter. And they're in Puerto Rico, so it is not exactly negative 100 DA ever there. So I understand if they go online and they look at my car running 9.1 and they're like, wait a minute, how does your car run 9.1 at this weight? Oh, we're in better conditions and the car probably has a better setup and it's probably a little lighter. So a lot of people that are wanting to run a number, the car running a number only if it's capable of running that number based on the parts and conditions, and we can't do anything for track prep. Sure, we can mess with timing, throttle angle, all that crap, but at the end of the day, we're not going to guarantee an 8-second pass out of a car that makes X amount of rear wheel horsepower if the conditions simply aren't there.
Right.
Yeah. So did you want to end it there and then see if we can do something like consistent, like weekly? Like, did you want to try to schedule something for next week on the Lund Racing channel? What do you want, or do you want to just grab some questions? It's really up to you. You're my guest, so whatever.
We can grab some questions and then we can finish up, and then I'd like to do this more often. I don't really care what channel it's on. It just
cool
because it promotes your channel, it promotes our channel. I think that we'd get more viewers on yours, but we can try the Lund Racing one and try to promote it more.
Got it.
I don't know how well monetization works with.
I have no idea. I enable it because I'm like, fuck it, I want to get the money. But at the end of the day, I think this is, I have 39,000 and change, and if 300 or 400 get on at the same time, that's awesome. Because what's our customer base really? That's right. It's a good chunk of it.
Yeah.
And they'll share it. This will be shared, so I'm sure they'll be nice and happy. A lot of people asking on single turbo 18 Mustang kits. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about single turbo. Who makes a single turbo Mustang kit? Hellion? Is that the only one that makes it?
They don't make one anymore.
They don't. So who makes a single 18 kit that I know? The only one I know was some guys down here, I think.
Yeah, there was the one kit that was on that.
The black Tradition car.
Yeah, Tradition Motorsports. It was. Yeah, Rami just said it's Blow by Racing.
Okay.
I believe it was a modified version of that kit.
Right. We haven't had much experience. Well, now I wouldn't say we hadn't had much experience, but let's just say that
did it on one.
UPR did it on one?
CPR.
CPR.
Yeah, Dustin.
They did it on an 18?
Mm-hmm.
No shit. Okay. So, I guess the question would be, what do we think about it? I mean, it tunes okay. It has its certain limitations. It makes decent power, but we can't really speak in depth about it, really.
Yeah, I think the main issues with a single kit is designing it so that back pressure is in check. I would say the only kit on the market that I've dealt with is the CPR turbo kit. So if he's making one for an 18, it would be worth purchasing. So I don't really remember much about the Tradition Motorsports car.
I remember it made 800 wheel.
plus.
It made 800 wheel to the tire, and then tried to up the boost, and it just wasn't really happy. But it was like a pre-production setup. You know what I mean? It wasn't like something that was like finished off.
There was the downpipe was too small, which is back-to-back pressure, and we thought it may have been getting a little valve float, which we know is bad on those because you got twin turbo cars that aren't getting valve float running, 4 or 5 more pounds of boost. So there's a balance there that you have. The kit design is key with it. So, and how big the primaries are, and how big the hot side piping is up to the turbo flange, how big the turbo flange is, how big the downpipe is, blah blah blah. A lot of it is the same with twin turbo kits, but it's just
what's your favorite turbo kit to tune on 18 plus?
I like the Aldo Welds kit and the Hellion bottom mount, the sleeper kit.
Sleeper, yep.
Yeah, I think I've done it on one. The rest of them were all top mount Hellion kits, but Aldo's is built to go further, I think. Because he's already got tubular manifolds, killer air to water on it if you want to do that. His air to air is not bad. I just like the design. I mean, even his kit on the 15-17, we've pushed to 17, 18 pounds of boost on stock valve springs and not had any issues.
Really?
So,
shit.
Yeah. So
that's badass. All right. I think it's kind of dying down a little bit. So what we'll do is, if you see anything you want to grab, go ahead. But I think I'm going to call it. We've been on for almost an hour and a half. And yeah, it goes fast. Once you get into the swing of things, you're like, wow, the time just flies. But I'd like to make it semi-regular because now that we got the setup, I think it'll do well.
In here. I'm scrolling back through to see if I
sure,
see
go
anything.
ahead.
Blah, blah, blah. Someone mentioned NMRA. We can say I'm not going to be attending, and neither is Senior at NMRA, Bowling Green, or not Bowling Green, Bradenton. So
if I go, it's if Power by the Hour goes, then it'll be just for Saturday. That's it, just to drive in, check it out, maybe do some support, and get the hell out of there.
Yeah, there's not going to be any on-site support, and if I do any remote support, it's just going to probably be for dealers that are there. So I believe Terry at Beefcake is going to have his 25-inch wheel bagged car trying to go 8. So.
And I must say, if you are in the burnout contest, I will absolutely remote tune support that.
Oh my god.
You want more RPM? Here you go, more RPM. You got to get that burnout contest win because they're giving out good money for burnout contests. So hey,
you got to raise up the engine coolant temp spark retard and the
yes, IAT retard, bring it up to 250
at least.
The hard limiter though, raise the EOT above the hard so that it goes pop 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 and it flames out and it just does some crazy shit.
Yeah,
they'll win
for exhaust valves or anything though.
If you don't give a shit, I will tune your car to win that burnout contest.
Someone asked, "What is our opinion on red coating pistons?"
Yeah, I don't know what that is. Do you know anything about that? Red coating? I mean, what about blue coating?
Something about reducing detonation.
Oh,
I'd have to research it. I honestly don't know.
I mean, the Blue Goose's pistons aren't coated any color, and they're fine.
They're like a brown, like crispy.
Crispy, yeah.
They saw some heat. So.
Exactly. Rami asking if I'm going to Texas 2K. Yes, whether I have the Fairmont there or not.
Yes.
Are we going to Texas 2K, John Jr.? Is Lund Racing going?
Senior and Junior will be attending.
Perfect. So Senior, Junior will be there attending and supporting Texas 2K. I'll be there if I'm racing. I'm not supporting anyone. If I'm not racing, I will be data logging and doing whatever. I really want to race, man. Even if I get one pass in, that Fairmont, because the Fairmont came from fucking Texas, and it's got to go back to Texas and run a number. It's just got to do it.
I know.
Makes me crazy. Y'all tune my Chevys. Okay, now they're just talking shit. Okay, so let's end it there. Let's just do that. End it there. I'm gonna get my beauty sleep. And we're going to try to make this a weekly thing. And then hopefully stay tuned for more stuff. And did you already put up the link for the remote trackside support stuff on there on the chat? Make sure you put that link up. Yeah, just one more time, so in case people ask and they want us to do it. You know, you got to schedule it ahead of time. You can't do it. You can't buy it that night and expect that night it's going to get done, because you know, I purchased it. Where is it? I'm like, no. You schedule it.
And the one thing I didn't mention was, if you're going to plan to do like a full day track rental and it's like 8 hours, please pay for the 8 hours ahead of time. So we're not sitting there like having to chase you down afterwards.
Exactly.
I will chase you down.
Kenneth the Menace says, from a stock 2015 to 17 GT, what would be your to be a Hellcat performance pack? You're worth the money. I don't know what that means.
NA E85 CJ.
Yeah, I mean, you need if it's naturally aspirated, you need absolutely everything. You know, cams, E85, Cobra Jet, everything.
That's me joking, because Hellcats are slow.
They're slow. They're slow. So you can be a stock Hellcat, but the moment a tune and an E85 goes on a Hellcat, good luck. Those things straight
I think
get
they're
it.
like low 10 cars, right?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, you could do E85 and a blower on a 15, 17 and go 9.
Usually like a TVS. Yeah, exactly. Usually like a TVS, it's like, boom, it's Hellcat killer territory right then and there for a fraction of the price.
Yeah.
All right, let's end it before people start paying and say, "Oh, I paid you, didn't answer my question." So I'll see you guys next week, and just stay tuned for the Facebook and Lund Racing channels to give you a heads up as to when we're going to be back on live.
All right, I'll talk
Thanks,
to you
John. I'll see you later.
Yep.